Hi guys, my name's Ollie. I'm the owner of Dutton's Fire and Smoke Barbecue. Just want to do a quick introduction video because it's our first ever YouTube video and let you guys know what we're about. We provide bespoke premium barbecues, American style, for any occasion, whether it's a wedding, works do, birthday or just a family gathering. We can provide it if it's American style smoked barbecue that you want. We do every protein you can imagine. We can do brisket, we can do pulled pork, we can do tomahawk steaks, and we can do some really premium stuff as well if that's what you guys fancy. This video today is actually for a customer. It is pastrami beef ribs. These are cooked Texas style and they've been brined for 5 days, but we'll get into that in the video. We're 5-star hygiene accredited, everyone, and we've had nothing but 5-star reviews on Google. If you're looking to book us, you can message us through our Instagram, you can message us through our Facebook, or you can even message us directly on YouTube, and we can look at providing barbecues within the Greater Manchester area. Hope you guys love the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay guys, let's get straight into it. So these are our Aberdeen Angus beef ribs that we get in from Costco. These are really high quality. Of course, with every cook that takes a while, we always start off with a bit of quality whiskey. We've got some King's Inch here. We're just going to put that up to the ice line. Very happy with that. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be setting up the brine because these are going to be pastrami beef ribs. So at the moment, I'm just toasting the coriander seeds. We're going to put them into the mortar and pestle and we're going to give them a good grind. You want to get these as fine as you possibly can because you want them to dissolve into the brine, and that way it will flavour the beef really well. We've got about 1/3 of a cup of coriander seeds. So these are the rest of the ingredients for the pastrami brine. So first of all, we've got 1/3 of a cup of our Montreal Jack seasoning. This is your normal steak seasoning. You get it from Costco. It's fantastic. Okay, we've got about a tablespoon of salt. We've got a tablespoon of cinnamon. We've got 1/3 of a cup of ground black pepper. Okay, that's our cloves, and we've got about a cup of white sugar in there. And you can see on the side there's a cinnamon stick that also goes in. So we're going to put our coriander seeds in, whack our cinnamon stick in there, and last but not least, we've got about 10 to 15 garlic cloves, and we're just going to really roughly chop these up. We want to be able to release that flavour into the brine as we cook it. So once we've got the brine mix ready, we're going to place it into about a 2-litre saucepan. Any pan will do, but you want to be using about 2 litres of water. And what you want to do is you want to use 2 litres of cold water. Do not pour boiling water on top of this stuff. Sometimes it can cause it to coagulate when you pour boiling water directly on top of the brine mix. So we're going to do this nice and slow. We're going to put it onto the cooker and we're going to bring this brine up to the boil. So once we give it a good mix, we're going to put the lid on, bring up to the boil. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes. And then we've got our boiling hot brine mix. The salt, the sugar, we should all have mixed into the water and dissolved in by now. You will be left with bits of black pepper in the bottom, but that's all going to give you lovely fragrance. And let me tell you, this stuff smells amazing. So what we want to do now is we're going to keep mixing it. We're going to put some ice in here and wait for this to cool down. You do not want to pour this brine mix on whilst it's still hot. You're just going to cook the outer edges of the meat and it's not going to absorb the flavour as well. You're going to keep adding your ice in. I do about a cup at a time. Give it a bit of a mix every now and again, and when that brine becomes nice and cool, we can put it onto our beef ribs. So we'll open up our beef ribs now. One thing I didn't mention at the start of the video is these beef ribs, they're actually in singular ribs. Sometimes you get these in ribs of 3, but we only get what we're given really. We can just make sure that the meat's high quality and then we move on from there. So what I'm looking at here now is how thick the fat is on top of the beef rib. If the fat is too thick, 1, it's not going to render properly, and 2, the brine isn't going to penetrate through the rib as much as we want it to be. And we're cooking Texas style here. So with Texas style, we always trim fat off the rib. So get yourself a nice sharp knife and start trimming the fat off of the beef ribs. You want to go just above where the meat starts. It's okay to leave a little bit of fat on there. That will render down. But we want to get that big thick layer of fat off the beef ribs. So we're just going to trim all these up. Just take your time with this process. I mean, that's exactly what we want the rib to look like. I'm just going to go through each and every rib, and we're going to keep hold of that fat. You can use that for sausages in the future, or you can use it for beef tallow. Just wrap it up in a bag and I whack it in the freezer. So my brine's cooled down now. I've had about 5 cups of ice go into it. Again, add the ice in slowly. Don't want to add too much water. We're going to give it a good mix. Like I said, at the bottom of this, you're going to have your peppercorn grounds at the bottom, which is completely fine. We're just going to brush them off the top once they come through. But the flavour is in the juice now, so that's going to penetrate into the beef. It's going to pull out the salts from the beef and replace it with that flavour from the pastrami brine. So let's just make sure that the meat itself is fully submerged. As you can see there, flipped upside down, the beef ribs poking out the top. And that doesn't really matter because we're not looking to brine the bone. We're going to wrap this up in cling film, get it nice and tight, make sure there's no gaps for the air to get out, and put that into our bag. That's going to go in the freezer, and we're going to put this in the fridge for 5 days. And boom, 5 days later, and our pastrami beef ribs have been fully brined, and some people might call it cured. So the brine should have penetrated these beef ribs all the way through to the centre. Obviously some ribs can be a little different, but as I'm showing you here, you can see that the colour of the ribs has completely changed, and that's where the brine has soaked in. So that's all flavour. But what we need to do is we need to rinse these ribs off, get the brine off the ribs. The flavour's inside the rib. We don't need that saltiness on the outside anymore. So I'm just demonstrating to you here another rib. This one's one of the more fatty ones. It's got a lot of intermuscular fat. Again, that's all flavour, and it gives us that Texas style as well. In America, their beef is a lot more fatty. It has a lot more intermuscular fat. We make do what we got here. We can get our hands on the Black Angus stuff, or we can get our hands on Wagyu, and that's the closest we can really get to that corn-fed beef that they have over in America. But we're just going to line these up on the tray, and once they're all on, we're going to rinse them off. Okie dokie, these have been all rinsed off now. We've got all those black peppercorns off the top as well. We're just going to pat these dry, and then we're going to cover the tops of these beef ribs with a very basic rub. We've already got a lot of flavour in these ribs, so we don't need to kill it with a crazy steak rub on top. We could have used a Montreal Jack, but in our case, all we're going to be using is ground peppercorns and table salt. And we're going to use a ratio of 3:1. So the way we do this is just get our measuring spoons, and we're going to put 3 tablespoons of black pepper. There's 1, 2, 3. And ratio is important. We don't want to make these any saltier than they already are. There's plenty of salt in that brine, plenty of flavour, and like everyone says, you can add salt later. So you're looking at just under a tablespoon of salt. Again, I'm always a bit overcautious with my salt. So 3 tablespoons of pepper to 1 tablespoon of salt. We're going to give that a mix, and we're going to liberally coat our beef ribs with our pepper and salt rub. I mean, these already look fantastic, and I can't wait. So we're going to do an overnight cook. We're about half 11, 12 o'clock at the moment at night, so midnight. We're just going to cover these up and we're going to put them back in the fridge. You don't need to cover them up. I just do it because I like to keep hygienic. So fast forward a few hours, about 5 in the morning here, very early, not had a coffee or anything, and I'm in my Batman robe. But we're going to uncover these beef ribs. The pepper and the salt has softened and absorbed into the top of the ribs, which is exactly what we want. It'll actually help the ribs create a bark for later. What we're going to be using to monitor the temperatures in these ribs is the meter probes. So we want to make sure that we're placing these meter probes in the thickest part of the meat. I'm only going to use 2 probes, so I've selected one of the smaller ribs. So we're going to go straight down the middle, more closer to the bone, but definitely through the middle of the meat. And then I pick one of the larger ribs for the second probe. And again, we're just going to go straight down the middle into the meat of that rib. This way we get an idea of how well the smaller ribs are doing and how well the bigger ribs are doing. I always put this number 1 in the small and number 2 in the large. So this is the meter app. We're going to go into the probe. We're going to select beef. We're going to select roast, as technically smoking is a roast. And in the background you can see we're getting the Traeger ready. That's heating up. And we're going to be going for about 205 degrees Fahrenheit. Working in American temperatures here. I am trained by Americans, so it's just a way I've learned. But obviously just convert it to Celsius if that's how you want to work. And we're going to do that for both the beef ribs. They're both going to be set to roast and then rib roast at 205 degrees. So they're going to go on the Traeger. That's about 5 in the morning. The Traeger's set to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason for that is because the Traegers produce more smoke at lower temperatures. So we're going to give these ribs a good 4 hours of 165. So we're now fast forward to the morning, about 9:30 now. Actually been out and about monitoring the meat. And what I'm doing is I'm bumping the Traeger up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. These guys have been smoking now for the last 4 or so hours. So we're going to have a quick look at this now and how the meter app shows you how the cook's going. So the green is the ambient temperature. So you can see it's about 165 to 175 for the ambient temperature, exactly what we've asked the Traeger to cook at. And the purple line shows our internal temperature. And as you can see, we're approaching the stall. So the stall's around 135 to 160. The smaller ribs a bit closer to that, about 131. But these have had plenty of time now for smoke flavour. We're going to bump this up to 250 degrees and we're going to ride these for at least 10 hours, not including the 4 hours they've already been smoking at. As you can see, these ribs are looking fantastic already. They're starting to pull away from the bone, and the bark on the top is starting to form. Right, we're back 4 hours later, and the smaller rib that has the first meter probe in has now come to fully cooked. As you can see on the graph there, the internal temp came to about 204. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the other ribs to see if any of them have come up to temp. So I'm just prodding it there just to feel what the tenderness is like. I'm going to check the internal temp with a thermometer. This is just making sure that we are around the right temps. We're around 200 on that one, but then as we look into the bigger ones, we're around 180, 185. So these other ribs aren't quite done yet. So with the other ribs, still need a little bit more time. We're going to take that smaller rib off, no need to overcook it. That's just going to go inside and rest. We're going to be back in about an hour to take the rest of the ribs off, and we're going to take them inside and check them out. But we're looking good on the first rib. Our little rib is all cooked. That'll be a little bit of a taste tester once we left it to rest. Okay guys, these are now fully cooked, 205 degrees internal. We've had about 9.5 hour cook time and half an hour's worth of rest. And if you look at these are absolutely stunning. Really nice glaze on them. The bark is set perfectly. What we're going to do is we're going to take the meter probe out, let's place that to one side. And then we're going to open these bad boys up and chop them up into nice fine slices. And you'll see it now. These things will just fall off the bone. There's like they're hardly even attached. I'm just going to disconnect the meat from each of the bones, and then I'll show you what the inside of these bad boys look like. Okay, so we got these off the bone now. I'm just going to show you quickly what the inside of these bad boys look like. And the smoke ring is absolutely perfect. Don't know why people say Traegers don't do smoke rings. They certainly do, and they bring a lot of flavour with them too. It's falling apart. The meat is cooked perfectly. And we did the taste test on the first rib, and the pastrami flavour is well and truly penetrated through there. It tastes amazing. The camera lighting doesn't really do the justice of the colour. The colour of the inside of these slices, it's very slightly red. That's just where the brine is penetrated through. But rest assured, these are cooked well past any kind of rare inside. These are well done all the way through, and they taste absolutely incredible. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. There's going to be links in the description where we get our meat from, what we provide, and also I can put the recipe and method down there in the description too. But thank you very much for following. Like and subscribe to these videos. I'm going to do many more if I get enough attention, and I look forward to catering to everybody in the future. Thank you very much, and have a lovely weekend.